Hi, I'm CJ and this is my RC channel. So by shedding these two steel braces and the hardware that holds them onto the plastic braces, which I'm going to keep, and they will have their hardware that comes in from below, we are shedding 38.34 grams. That's a nice chunk of weight taken off the car, and that should help to make this a little faster, a little more nimble. Unfortunately, we're removing it from the lowest point on the car, or at least on the chassis itself, so that does affect our center of gravity, but it is still weight removed, and hopefully we'll be taking some weight from higher up in the center of gravity down the road. But this is what we've got right now, and getting rid of some of the extra weight this car carries is still a bonus. If you're using my kit, or if you're doing this in some other fashion, the front brace does not have the section that comes across here. It's taller, so it does not need a shim. My kit includes a shim for the rear that will basically come across here and give you two holes there, and provides the same thickness as this piece to replace that difference in height for your diff mounting. Now, to mount the rear, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 holes. You want, if you're replacing with hex hardware, which is what I'm doing with every Phillips head as I go through here, I am replacing them with M3 by 10s for the rear, and the front one is a little bit thinner. I am replacing that with M3 by 8s. They may protrude a teeny bit from the top, but I'd rather they go all the way through and just provide that little bit of strength that they're there for. So just wanted to show you the install process, or parts of it. The front brace is on. It is very solid. There's no way this is gonna... I don't see how this can break. You'd have to really bend up the chassis. I'm using 15s up here. I want them to pass all the way through. You might be able to see the stub of the bolt sticking through down here on the side of the diff. I'm doing that because I want to make it as strong as possible. You're going to want to take a 2mm drill bit and drill through the hole. It doesn't pass all the way through the diff, not through the tabs. At least it didn't on mine. So again, I wanted to make sure that it was going to go all the way through, and you can't force it through. All you'll do is strip threads if you even tried that. I would use a 2 instead of like a 2.5, because you want as much plastic there to be threading through. You want it to be as strong as possible, and like I said, using the slightly longer hardware, make sure that it has passed through, and it would literally have to be torn out. Again, I just don't see how that could ever happen. I'm using a pair of 10s up here. They go into aluminum, so use a tiny bit of Loctite, but you could probably put a pair of 12s if that's what you have handy. But 10s will work just fine. And so now I am doing the rear. We have that shim. You're going to want to glue that underneath here. It's going to strengthen up the little fork up here. And I used 30-minute epoxy and then left it for 24 hours so that it would really solidify. 30 minutes is the minimum for epoxies. You generally want to give them some cure time. So anyway, on to this. Now, there is no shim needed here. There's only a shim needed up here because the front diff has kick. That creates an angle that needs to be corrected for. Also, there's a spacing difference between the height of those diff tabs and the height here. So that shim, I'm using a 3mm shim, and that seems to have worked out just fine. It gives just a teeny bit of clearance over the metal brace here, which doesn't matter even if it was touching that, because that does not move, but it provides plenty of clearance over the steering rack. I'm hoping that you can see there. So I move this, there's at least 1.5 millimeters to 2.5 millimeters of space there. So our steering operates just fine without any issues or contact. Now again, yours will not have this little cutaway, it'll just be straight. I have kind of rigged up this setup here temporarily. I'm going to be switching my servos. I wanted to level out this bar. I wasn't happy. If you watch the videos, you'll see why I ended up doing it, and it had more to do with the hardware that and linkages I had available to put in here. I would have normally gone with a standard ball link and just used one with a slightly longer threaded bolt end and or screw end, and then just used spacers as needed to get this bar horizontal. Other than that, everything's good to go. So to the rear now. Oh, another thing I want to show you. When I was reinstalling the plastic braces on the bottom, this one I just used the same size hardware, 10s, and I used, as you can see, I've swapped everything on here from Phillips head to hex heads. I didn't run into any problem with bolts either stripping. I think they're using hardened hardware, so you could probably hang on to the Phillips if you don't have the hex heads. It's not a priority, and I didn't have any problems getting them out. A few of them where the motor mounts are and the diff mounts, they had used a lot of it, but it's a different variety than what they were using on their previous kits. I was able to get them out with, you know, just a quick turn, no stripping or even a hint of it. I didn't need to heat anything up or blow torch it or anything. So now what I did change is since these plates are missing, one of these plates, the front one, and I have not driven this yet, it seemed like it had a little bit of a warpage to it, but the plastic one certainly did, and the screw was a little stripped. I don't know if these guys, when they're assembling these, are using powered drivers. They probably are, to speed up the process. In any event, the hole back here was a little weak. I could feel as I was getting to the point of tight that I was going to spin right past tight into the strip zone. And so what I did was I got a longer piece of hardware and I used a nylon lock nut on the rear hole. The front one up here does not need to be locked down. I got to put the bolts in, but the standard hardware is going to work fine for the front one, because it's literally being, you know, held down by the diff. So in the rear, I have provided this for you. This takes the place of this piece as far as the spacing between the diff. So you will receive this in your kit. Yours will not be glued together. I'm going to leave that to you guys. If you want to use, you know, 12 or 24-hour epoxy, go to town. If you want to use gap filling CA, I don't recommend that, but go ahead and do it. I really don't think that there's any issue with breakage, especially since the fork at this end is doubled up with a shim that gets glued in place. Definitely glue it. Don't just clamp it under there. Take the time. The wave forces are going to be coming at these pieces. The twist, if any, is very minimal, and we're really talking about a collapsing force that is coming at this from the diff being pushed, the kick on the chassis. It bends right across this line here, basically, right where the chassis narrows. It has strength here because it's bolted to the diff base. It has strength here because of its width. So this is our point of failure right there. That's where it bends. That's also where we have, we have a long spacer here, and then we have our diff, and the two don't like key into each other or have any other type of connecting mechanism. So this is our point of flex. And with this here, it would take a tremendous amount of force to break this structure here. I just don't see that happening. If you're doing normal running, if you're not jumping houses with this, you're not going to break it. I've tried several different versions. This is one version I came up with using a pair of carbon fiber tubes and some 3D printed fixtures. This is the front right here. It certainly is strong, but it was overly complicated and taller than it needed to be for clearance for the body, and it just wasn't necessary. It was just overkill. So anyway, in theory, having the T cross section here is overkill. This could literally just be flat and allow it to have a little bit of bowing if one wanted. I leave it up to you guys. If you want to try running yours without the insert, you probably aren't going to have any problems. It's not a weight issue, and I don't think it would be a strength problem. I recommend going ahead and gluing that in there. It just makes sure you're not going to have issues. But I think everybody's going to be just fine. So let me go ahead and put this together. I'm going to go ahead and, well, I guess I can do it on camera. It's no big deal. I need to rummage up some hardware I seem to have moved. there we go. I also went ahead and swapped out these 4 screws that hold the shock tower to the diff assembly with steel hex head hardware, and these 2 little brackets here that hold on the wing, I went ahead and swapped those for with aluminum. So now I can put my wing back on. So now using some Velcro tabs, and as you can see, the body fits just fine. No clearance issues on either of these braces, front or rear. So that's the kit. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please click like and please subscribe to my channel.